woman. How in the world does that fit you? First of which, they don't know what they're talking about. All of them took something and took part of it and broke off and started their own. Huh? That's I get people coming by my house every day that are Jehovah's Witnesses. I try to get them in and lock the door because I got some real whipping stuff in my life. Really? But you see, they take one name for God and run with it, just like A.R.K. The real name of God is Allah. That is crap. Because there is no Allah before there is an Arabia, and there is no Arabia in BC. Period. Period.
I think all he's saying.
And the reason that they have a Muhammad that broke off is because what the church was doing in Rome, the landlords. Do you know that in Europe at the time of the Crusades and what was going on? Okay, the landlord had the right to sleep with your wife on the first night. That's how cold-blooded that was. And we running, okay, we dumb as rocks. We running around buying this like it's candy and it's ours. And none of this was designed for you. They didn't have you in mind. You were not on their agenda. And they still don't like
and
you.
We all agree with that, but we got to get to the...
Okay. Solomon. S-O-L. S-O-L. O-M. On. Sun, and On is the biblical city of On, or Heliopolis. So there was no guy named Solomon. They're talking about the thing in the star in the heavens that's still there every day. Just like everything else we've been looking at. Did you notice in the church where A.R.K. was speaking, did you see the candelabra out in front with the seven? You saw the white Jesus in
the background.
Okay.
I saw it. That's typical.
We can't get along without our white
That's
Jesus.
typical.
Well, you know, I remember we were in Disciple Bible study. The thing that was brought up was that almost in every church, especially in every black church, there's this picture. This blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. Okay? Well, I did some studying on that and I found out that this was a picture painted by Michelangelo. And the model for that picture was his uncle, who died in debtor's prison.
And in the baptism, you know where you have Jesus at the table? Those were all guys from the Turkish jail. No, that's a fact. I mean,
you know, but it takes education, it takes learning. I mean, you don't know if you don't search out, which is what we're trying to do.
Okay, so now you have the Solomon. So go ahead. The only historical document that we have states that after the shepherd kings or the Hyksos, what did the Hyksos do supposedly in the Bible?
Those were the guys. They invaded Egypt.
The Hyksos are the people that come into Egypt after its decline of the second golden age. And these are the boys that were in power for a minute until these Africans from the south, A.R.K. and A.R.K, came back and saved them. And that's in the Jewish.
And it's also noted with that, if you read in your Bible, when he talks about Joseph, when he came to get power, he said that Joseph, when he was in power, there arose a king who knew not Joseph, who was that king. That was the re-emergence of the African kingdoms coming back, overthrowing these people, coming back in power.
And notice here it talks about the lower Egypt, or Memphis. By the way, see this Memphis here? That's where you get Memphis, Tennessee from.
I was going to ask that, but I didn't underline.
Okay. And Lower Egypt, driven out east and founded and built Jerusalem in 2554
BC. And so now that's where the timeline comes in, because that's where church waters threw this in here But when we first started off chapter 9, he wasn't down to this close to 2554 BC.
That's right.
So, you know, he just continued.
See, there's a history.
Throwing off.
When you get, when they give you the date of things, that's when they lock themselves in.
Mhm.
Because, notice it says, in the reign of Thutmosis.
Right.
There's 3 Thutmoses. But Thutmosis III was the guy that ruled the entire world. He took his army out and he did a Roman or whatever kind of thing to them. He conquered everybody. But this wasn't a nice guy. Let me make sure you understand that. If he came on your village and you didn't put up a fight, he put the symbol of the vagina on your village. That's where you get that idea of calling somebody that today. See, that's why we have to know our history. Everybody in our history wasn't nice guys. But he also enslaved all of the men and took the women and children and did what he pleased with them. So if you know what this guy did in history, then when it comes back on you a little later, you shouldn't be shocked. What the white people did to us is what we have done to them.
That's exactly what he did. Yeah.
Okay, we keep going. Now these were the stellar cult people. And if this be true, then the first temple formed or built in Jerusalem must have been that of these people, or stellar. Now, let me ask you a question, because we've said this before. Stellar, how do you tell stellar from any other as far as if they were going to build a building, what identifies it as being stellar? Think of the poles.
The North Pole.
The North Pole and the South Pole. Anything stellar today, if it's oriented north and south, it's stellar oriented. If it's oriented east and west, it's solar. The Hebrews at first could not properly be said to have a temple, yet they did not. And then it goes on and goes through this long thing about the word temple versus tabernacle. Okay. And then it tells you some things about, jump down to the paragraph. It says the word tabernacle
Is Hebrew. In Hebrew is Babel.
and it says, what's this mean?
Tent.
I think we have a little revolt outside of the hole.
I think so too. We might have to go to this room. If that's the case, they gonna burn us out here. That's probably next.
They bring our body.
It's not funny though. We don't have to be here. Yeah, we can go back to the same thing. They're open on Mondays now? See, that's when we're here. Our church wasn't open on Mondays. Yeah, but if they're doing that, we can go back to the same thing.
Okay, 166. It gives you more information. The thing on there that I find to be significant and a word that jumps out at you is a guy named Josephus. And if you know who he is the so-called father of Jewish history. And he supposedly wrote the first history of the Jewish people. And I'll bring it next week, but the books I have from Josephus, when he talks about the Jewish people, he doesn't talk about them in the terms that we think about them being godly, clean, and da-da-da. He said quite the opposite. That these were unclean, uncivilized people who had a serious disease. And they marched for 6 days and they rested on the 7th day because of their disease. That we have now perverted that over and said this gets to be the Sabbath for God.
Here's something that's striking.